welcome back to another episode of Ink Thoughts podcast. Hope everyone has been doing well. Today, I have a new guest with me, Stefania. Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Of course. Hi, my name is Stefania. I am 21, well, almost 22 years old. I'm a psychology graduate. I only graduated a couple of months ago, so I'm still new to the whole working world. And yeah, I'm happy to be here.
When you say you're 21, nearly 22, I'm like, I feel so old now.
No, you can never be too old.
Okay, yeah. um, the reason that I approached Stefania was kind of funny because I just saw this one post that she posted on LinkedIn. I was like, wow, that's interesting. So basically, she's talking about um, studying psychology and she didn't do it for nothing and stuff like this. So that time I
Yeah,
was like, yeah, it might be very interesting to have a conversation together in terms of since we shared the same education background, like we
yeah.
both study psychology. And so yeah, what drew you to study psychology at the first place?
So I'm not entirely sure. I don't have a specific reason for it. I mean, a lot of people that have chosen psychology is mainly because they had a major interest in it and they wanted to pursue it for university. But when I was in college, I initially wanted to study economics or accountancy. Not because I liked it, but because I wanted to work in an office and wear nice clothing. And I thought, oh, it's such an interesting job to work with numbers and computers. And for my college, during college, I studied economics, English, and Spanish, so nothing related to psychology. And during the course of my studies, I realized that I was really bad at economics. Like, I was not good at all. And no matter how hard I tried, because I didn't enjoy it, I found it really hard to understand it. So I said, okay, I think it'd be really silly of me to pick this subject for university, given that, it's 3 years of having to focus on the same subject. And when I finished my A levels, which is basically college in London, um, I was confused. I mean, I had to pick something for university because it was during the process of my applications and I wasn't sure what to go for. And I remember I was at home with my mom and I told her I don't know what to study. And while I was looking through the different subjects, psychology just kind of popped up to me. Just because, first of all, it was a new subject. And second of all, I mean, it was a new subject to me because I've never really explored it before. And second of all, because I thought it might help me as well. Because I was going through a time where I needed to learn more about the mind in order to sort of help myself, but also to learn how to help other people. And I guess my interest in psychology was sort of gradual. It sort of built up during the time that I was studying it at university.
Sorry. Yeah, for me, it's the same as well. I mean, I didn't choose it at the first place, and I actually know almost nothing about it because it's
Yeah,
not a very big thing back then, and especially in Malaysia. Mm, But that time I was like with um finding out like what should I study after I graduated from high school, and so I actually wanted to go into like medicine or um, nutrition kind of areas, but that
yeah,
time my parents were like, "Are you sure?" and stuff. We had a lot of like discussion, not exactly argument, but you can say so.
yeah.
Yeah, and afterwards I was like, let's try to look for something else. And then I found, well, psychology sounds interesting. And so, and my dad was quite supportive because he did, I mean, he did mass comm for his uni, but he minored in psychology, so he kind of understand what it's about. So that time I started with the thoughts of, you know what, if mm, um mental health is not something that I want to do. At the end of the day, I can still go into like HR or
Yeah,
marketing or stuff like this. So that's always like a plan B. So
yeah,
I was
no,
like, yeah, give it
exactly.
a try. And during my foundation time, I had like 2 modules of psychology and I really, really enjoyed it. I was like, yeah, I'm very sure that I want to do this now.
Yeah. No, but that's the great thing about psychology. I think that if you are unsure of what sort of career path you want to take, you should definitely pick a subject that you know will open up a lot of doors for you. Because I have some friends who, for example,
Mm,
I had a friend who studied English, and she dropped the subject just because when you study English, for example, it's very hard to find. I mean, you can obviously maybe go into journalism or English teacher, but it's very limited to what careers you want to do. So unless you know that, okay, I want to become an English teacher or I want to work in journalism, then you should definitely go for a subject that will open up a lot of doors for you.
yeah, I think there's like pros and cons. Like the pros is what you mentioned, but I guess the cons might be if let's say you really want to do something like let's say counseling or clinical psychology kind of stuff, you can't really practice it after you graduated from the undergraduate degree itself because
Yeah,
you're just not qualified. You still need a very long pathway to get to the yeah
yeah,
like maybe let's say computer science graduates after they graduated then they can right away dive into the work itself.
yeah. No, definitely. It's a long-term career. Like if you know you want to pursue
Mm,
something in psychology, you need to do a lot of studies on the side. But I
mm,
think it's a
yeah.
very rewarding job, to know that first of all you help yourself, but also you have the ability to help other people.
Mm,
So
yeah, yeah. And I think human is always a very interesting or- organism. Like um everyone is just different no matter how
yeah,
many theories that people come up with, there's always some individuality that will make things different.
no, definitely, yeah. That's the thing. I mean, you can never get bored studying a subject like this.
Is there any specific area of work that you are interested in at the moment?
Related to psychology specifically. So, I mean, if I was to think about only psychology, I would say that, to be honest, I don't think I have a major interest in the subject in the sense that if you want to pursue something related to psychology, be it clinical psychology, child psychology, developmental psychology, you need to be very strong minded, I think, because it's a very mentally demanding job. And the problem with me is that if someone was to tell me a really traumatic story, I would think about it for the rest of the week. And it will affect me because I put myself in people's shoes too easily. So I think
Mm,
if you are to choose a subject, if you are to choose a career in this field, you need to learn how to separate yourself from your job.
yeah.
It's like when you're at work, but when you're at home, that's it.
Mm,
And it obviously comes with practice. And, it's like they say every therapist has a therapist as well. And then that therapist has a therapist. So I think at the moment, I'm not
yeah.
really exploring anything psychology related just because I don't feel ready for that. Hence why I'm looking at more corporate jobs. But I think definitely the subjects that do seem the most interesting to me is social psychology.
Okay. So would you say that's a reason why you are more attracted to like PR work?
I think so because I mean, when you work in PR, for example, I mean, the decision of me to work in PR was made by the fact that when I finished university, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew that for now, I don't want to do anything
Mm,
related to psychology in the sense that I wouldn't want to become a counselor or I wouldn't want to become a therapist for now. And I guess I started looking into, it's like you mentioned, HR, marketing, PR, because you do use psychology. I mean, consumer behavior, you do use psychology in these sort of fields.
yeah.
And if you are to relate social psychology to PR, for example, then they are very intertwined because PR
Mm,
is about you have to be creative. You have to understand consumer behavior. You have to understand how to improve and uphold the reputation of a brand and of your company. And it's about, how do you form customer perceptions and things like that. So it's definitely related to social psychology.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember after my first year, I did an internship with a company um, under the marketing department, but I work very closely with the assistant manager who focus more on PR side of work. So I would
Mm,
say it's interesting and very challenging.
yeah,
And it seems like
it's
there's a lot
challenging.
of
Yeah,
communication going on, and yeah, and you just can't. I mean, I was very new to everything that time. I was like, am I okay saying this, or should I think twice or stuff? But
yeah,
that kind of, but at the same time, you kind of brings the, I mean, yeah, you're wearing the company's image, so you can't really afford saying something wrong or something inappropriate and stuff.
yeah. I mean, I think you're always going to have that pressure, especially after graduating. If you haven't had a full-time job before, you do want, I mean, you would have that fear of
Mm,
failing and making mistakes. But I think if you are in a workplace where they don't allow you to make mistakes, then I think already that's not the right place for you.
yeah, and anyhow, you can always learn and slowly build your skills up to it.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's about practice.
Mm,
I guess it's like, fake it until you make it.
yeah.
So
So what do you think how your psychology background has helped you so far?
I think, you know what? The truth is, I did think that studying psychology will help me understand the mind more, and it has. But what they teach you in university, especially during the undergrad degree, is very, very basic, I would say, in the sense that a lot of the things I already knew,
Mm,
be
mm,
it from experience, be it from books. I mean, I think realistically, you can learn a lot more by reading a book about psychology than having to do a degree. But
yeah.
obviously, if you want to pursue something in psychology, then you need a degree. It's helped me so far because in career wise, when you apply to different jobs, just by telling the employer that you studied psychology and you're able to understand human behavior, that already puts you a step ahead. You already have an extra point, an extra advantage because you can adapt in any sort of career.
Mm,
And it's helped me as well mentally, I think, because for example, now when I walk on the street and, I'm talking to someone, or if I'm performing, I'm doing some kind of action or I'm saying something, it's like, this relates to this psychological theory. So it's like, it's quite interesting to apply what you study to everyday life,
yeah.
I think. So,
So like you say, mm, because of psychology, you tend to understand a bit more about human behaviors and communication stuff, which is, I mean, which is the key aspects of psychology. Mm, what do you think this kind of background or knowledge and stuff would help someone stand out in maybe a very communication based work, such as like PR, for example?
I think when you work in the more corporate side of things, so whether you choose to have a career in marketing, whether you choose to have a career in PR or in HR, psychology helps you because you always have to work with people. I mean, in a business, you have to influence customer decisions. You have to influence customer perception. So, how do they perceive your business? Um, if you're a brand where you sell products or you sell services, I mean, you have to learn how to persuade people to make the decision to buy your product, for example.
Mm,
And psychology teaches you that. I mean, there is a specific module that we had, which was decision making in psychology, and they teach you the different ways that people make decisions, which I found it was actually one of my favorite subjects. It's very interesting, and I think the core idea is that the number one thing that makes people, that influences people to make a decision is emotions. Like we're very,
Mm,
we tend to be impulsive, and that's mainly because we act on our emotions rather than rationally. So when you learn all of this, then you learn how to deal with customers, you learn how to deal with people, you learn how to communicate better as well, which I think is really important.
yeah. Um, yeah, it's nice that you guys have like a whole module for decision making. I remember I only have maybe two lectures on lectures on
Yeah,
decision making. I find it very interesting too,
yeah. I
especially
think
when we are making decisions almost every minute in our life.
exactly. I mean, honestly, you asking me to be here was a decision you had to make. So it's like everything you do is a decision. And I think, no, exactly. So I think um, it's important to sort of dive into that a tiny bit. I mean, I guess the way psychology, the psychology degree, I'm not sure if every university, I guess every university is different. But for us, the first 2 years were very basic. So they taught you the core modules. And then in the third year, you had the chance to choose what you wanted to do. Like you had to choose what modules you wanted to specify in as well.
That was similar to mine too. Like
Yeah.
the third year we have the flexibility to choose, but still it kind of limits to what the lecturers are specialized in. So that time, mm, most of our lecturers are more towards. Mm, yeah, I think there was a lecturer who specified in social psychology, so that was quite interesting to learn from her.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in general, when you
Continue.
study this subject, again, it just puts you at such an advantage because you deal with people everywhere. And I'm not saying that studying just the undergrad degree will teach you how to deal with people, but it's a starting point and it sort of introduces you to that area. And then you'll be able to tell whether that's something that interests you or not for the future. So,
Yeah. So far, what steps are you taking to explore PR as a career since you are so interested in it?
so I obviously just graduated with my undergrad degree, and normally the next step would be to do a master's.
Mm,
The thing is, I don't think master's is always necessary. Um, and for me, if I was to go into PR, I don't really,
mm,
a master's degree is not something I need. Obviously, it might put me at an advantage, but I can easily just do other courses on the side just to kind of explore the
mm,
subject a little bit more. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm doing introductory courses to PR, as well as doing research by myself, searching the area, searching the subject, finding, because I mean, even now, even though I am interested in PR, I haven't had a full time job in it yet. So I don't know if this is definitely something I want to do, but I am
mm,
exploring
mm,
it. And I think, you never know until you try, to be honest.
mm.
So,
Yeah, that was also why I decided to really go into the field and work for mental health for a bit to understand whether I want to do it or not before I continue with my master as well.
yeah, no, exactly. Because masters are expensive.
So I saw you posting about this Instagram page that you're managing.
Mm,
Would you like to tell us a bit more about it?
yes. So, Diary Drops is an Instagram page that I'm sort of running at the moment. It was initially called Endless Psychology. I started it when I think about 3 years ago when I started my psychology degree. And I would basically talk about psychology. You know, I would post mental health quotes. I would do videos about mental health. And I really enjoyed it at the time. It's just, I thought it's not really going anywhere. I mean, I thought of myself, 10 years down the line, where is this page going to go if I'm not really interested to go into psychology at the moment. And so I took a break from it. For a couple of months, I stopped posting. I was like, I need a break from social media. And then I created Diary Drops, which is the same page. I have the same community, the same followers. I just changed the name of it. And I decided to combine the art of psychology with the world, like with the corporate world. So, how do you use psychology in PR? How do you use psychology in business?
Mm,
Which at the moment, I mean, my idea was to mainly focus it on that. But then I realized that I also enjoy talking about mental health. And so I was a bit reluctant because I
mm,
thought I had to choose. I thought I had to choose between mental health and PR. I can't do both. But I mean, why not? So I guess Diary Drops at the moment is
yeah,
talking about psychology both in everyday to day life, be it mental health, be it well being, but also talking about psychology in the corporate world. Because I mean, they're all intertwined, they're all linked together. So.
yeah. That was very interesting when I saw it, and I went into the Instagram page and have a look, and yeah, I actually quite enjoy your videos though.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know where it's going
Although
to go
it's like short, but
yet.
you really learn something from it.
Thank you. Oh, I'm glad you said that.
Hope that gives you some motivation to continue
Thank you.
doing it.
It really does. It really does. So,
Oh yeah, I saw you have a podcast thing that talks about like 5 minutes kind of thing on
yeah,
mental health or something, is it?
there is that as well. So, before I used to have another podcast, which again was called Endless Psychology. And on it, I would do longer videos, like 20 minutes videos. And I loved it. I loved talking a lot. But sometimes, from my personal
Mm,
experience, if I'm pressing on a podcast, which is like 30 minutes, an hour long, it's nice, but occasionally I would like to listen to shorter
mm,
podcasts, like 5 minutes, where they just get to the point and they tell you how it is, and then that's it.
mm,
Especially if you're a more busy individual and you just want to quickly listen to something. And I decided to make another podcast which talks about mental health, but literally in under 5 minutes. Which I don't think I've really stuck to. Sometimes my videos go to like 7 minutes, but it's fine, it's allowed. Um, because I thought a message that is being delivered in 20 minutes can be just as well delivered in 7 minutes without having to make it really long. And I haven't been posting on it
mm.
much just because my Spotify, I can't access it at the moment. So I'm trying to figure that out. But it's definitely still carrying on. I mean, I definitely still want to pursue with that podcast and see where it's going. So,
Yeah, I think the 5 minutes idea is very good though. Like, yeah, most of the time podcasts are just very long, and sometimes when you see how long it is, will actually just stop you from going forward to actually listen to it. But when
yeah.
it's like something like just a few minutes, you'll be like, yeah, I have that few minutes to spare. Like, why not? And
Yeah.
nowadays, our attention span is so much shorter, and that would just helps with yeah.
No, that as well. Yeah. I mean, longer podcasts are nice, if you're taking a bath, cooking, washing the dishes. But sometimes it's nice to have that other alternative where if you can,
Mm,
you could also listen to one that is like 5 minutes and it doesn't take up too much of your time.
mm,
So, yeah. I mean, because I was even talking to my parents the other day, and I was telling them, even though career wise, I think I'm going to pursue something corporate, I will always feel passionate about mental health and psychology. And that is definitely something that I still want to focus on. But I think it will be more of a hobby and of a side aspect of my life rather than something career focused. So
Yeah, it sounds like you're really utilizing psychology in every single part of your
no, every single
life.
part of my life, honestly.
Yeah, that is a really nice thing to do. Like sometimes I do forget like yeah, actually I have all this knowledge since I'm working in mental health field. Sometimes I just forget that yeah, I should use it on myself. It's not just a job.
No, you definitely should. I mean, there's a lot of different theories, a lot of different ideas and beliefs that you can do, but
Currently, you're still in like the early stages of your career journey. What do you think? I mean, how are you going to figure out like what are the steps that you are taking to help yourself figure out what you truly want to do?
you know, I think you can research as much as you want, which does help. But until you don't try, you don't know.
Mm,
Sometimes, I mean, once I was having a conversation with one of my lecturers, and he told me sometimes knowing what you don't want to do is also a starting point. So I think if you're really unsure about what career path to take a list, like take a piece of paper and just write down, what careers do you definitely not want to do? And then just take those out.
mm,
And I think what would also really help is next to those career paths, writing down why you don't want to do them. Because then you're able to identify what sort of traits you have and what sort of aspects you want to avoid career wise. So, for example, with me, when I was exploring different jobs, you know, different skill sets, I realized I want to have a creative job. So, I want to have a job where I'm allowed to be
mm,
creative, be it through social media, be it through marketing. Um, so that's one thing that I know I want to do, and that already narrows everything down for me. Because if I work in economics and I sit down in front of a computer the whole day, that's not me being creative, and I'll get bored easily. Some people enjoy that though, they
mm,
enjoy the analytical side of things. It's just not something
mm.
I would want. So definitely sit down with yourself for like 5 minutes, close your eyes and visualize yourself in that job and just try to imagine what it would feel like. If it feels good, great, pursue it, go for it. If it doesn't, then maybe it's something you should sort of step away from, I think.
That's a very interesting way to
Yeah,
imagine it and yeah, kind of feel it. Yeah, I
yeah.
believe that would be very helpful for many people who are really feeling very lost about what they want to do.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like doing visualization work. When you
Mm,
like just sitting with yourself, closing your eyes. Let's say you want to pursue a job in as a therapist, for example. Just sit down, imagine you're in the therapy session, you're the therapist helping someone. How does that make you feel? For me, for example, it would make me feel good, but it would also make me feel drained because I put myself in
mm.
people's shoes too easily, like I said. And so I know, okay, you know what, for now, that job isn't for me. So then I know to step away from it and have a look at other options. I think it's a good technique to utilize.
Yeah, yeah, I believe it might be helpful in many different situation as well, like to help you kind of help you prepare yourself, like how people tend to use this kind of method to help those like people with autism
Yes.
to help them know yeah what to predict just so they can handle it.
Yeah. definitely.
What role do you think did your time studying psychology play in helping you understand about yourself or your career interests? Yeah.
So I think that is a good question. In terms of understanding myself, I'm not sure if I think the only module that helped me understand me would be decision making. Because everything else is sort of
Mm,
basic information, like especially when we studied clinical psychology, for example. They teach you about anxiety, they teach you about depression, they teach you about eating disorders.
mm,
And it was all great to know, but then again, a lot of it I already knew. I mean, I'm sure everyone knows the symptoms of
mm,
anxiety, everyone knows the symptoms of depression. But
mm,
the decision making module, which, like I said, was one of my favorites, is definitely one which helped me understand myself because we studied a lot of case studies where people had to make certain decisions and they taught us how they make them and why they make them. And I think that's such a big part of your everyday to day life because everything you do is a decision. I mean,
mm,
let's say you're an anxious individual, right? Um, how you deal with your anxiety is a decision. I mean, am I deciding to be calm about it and sort of go with it, or am I deciding to have a full on panic attack and, run away from it? So I think it did help me in terms of becoming more conscious of the decisions that I make
mm.
and realizing that trying to separate a decision that I'm making emotionally and a decision that I'm making rationally, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And career wise, it helped me because, like I said, understanding people allows you to connect with them more, whether that's your co-workers or whether that's customers or clients that you're working with. And I think also when you study psychology, you have more empathy for people. And so you sort of force yourself to
Mm.
understand them more and to listen to them more, which I think is necessary, not just at work, but even in your day to day life. You become more connected to the human nature because you study that subject. And so you relate to it more.
Yeah, yeah, I get what you mean. Like for me, I'll say, I've never really thought I would be interested in like gender differences until I did evolutionary psychology and I did my um fin- final year project on this area of research. That I found like, yeah, actually, it is a very important part because first of all, we live in a society and there's a lot of societal expectations that might unconsciously affect us so much that it affects how we see people and we see ourselves, and especially when gender is one of the things that kind of separate people into different groups as well. And that was when I was like, yeah, it's actually very interesting to know to see how people actually see something based on just gender itself and differentiate people just based on gender itself. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll say if apart from mental health, that might be the second area that I'm more interested in. But maybe also because I had the chance to do a bit more research in it.
Yeah. No, I think that is a very interesting topic to explore because, I mean, you think mental health is general, I mean, everyone has the same brain, I guess, but it's the idea that different, I mean, you have men and women, they get affected by it differently. Like, for example, it's
Mm,
known that anxiety affects women more than men. But at the same
mm,
time, it's also good to be conscious of the fact that that might not always be true. I mean, I know someone who's a
mm,
guy and who apparently experiences really bad panic attacks, you know? So it's an
mm,
interesting area to explore because it obviously comes down to your biological basis as well. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's definitely something you should carry on looking into.
yeah, and I mean, we all live in a socially constructed kind of way, as in all of our beliefs or stuff is very deeply affected by the society, and because of the society, that's what we were taught, and we keep feeding ourselves about it, and so that really affects how we say things. And sometimes the right or wrong probably isn't the ultimate right or wrong, but we just stand so firmly on it because we have been taught this way since young. But that could be something that is affecting people so much that we should be aware of.
Yeah. And I'm happy you said that because it's something I think I've been struggling with in a way, like especially career wise. You know, society teaches you that when you're
Mm,
out of university, you have to immediately apply to jobs and you have to immediately get your things together. And
mm,
it hasn't been like that for me. I mean, when I finished university for like a month, I didn't apply to any jobs. I was like, you know what, this is my time to relax and do nothing. And I
mm,
think it's a poor mentality to have that you need to get things done now. You know, whilst you're young, you need to be
mm,
successful by 25. You need to have a good job by 25 and be married by 25. It's like, no, what if I want to do all of that by 40? Why can't I just, pursue what I want to do without having to feel like I need to do it right now? Because I guess that is what society teaches you in a
yeah,
way.
yeah. Would you say you're able to kind of distance yourself from this kind of things, like as like things like age factor? People keep saying like, yeah, by this age you should already achieve this and that and stuff like this.
I think, yes, I do think the mind has the power to be reprogrammed. Obviously, the older you get, the more difficult it is because it's more deeply
Yeah.
embedded in your brain. But you do have the power to reprogram your thinking. I don't think you can reprogram your thoughts because thoughts are more spontaneous messages that just sort of pop up in your brain. But you can reprogram your thinking and your outlook on life.
Mm,
It just comes with practice and
yeah.
time and effort, and whether you want to put in that effort to
Mm,
change the
mm,
way that your mind is operating,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And mm, I mean, that's why positive affirmation works most of the time. If you keep repeating that positive affirmation to yourself, it just,
Yeah,
yeah, you can just reprogram how you see things, how the way you think. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And visualization works as well. There's one technique which I think for me it really works. It's always asking yourself, how would my higher self, so like my highest, most
Mm,
responsible, confident self, how would they react in this situation? I mean, you right now, let's say you don't feel confident because you haven't landed a career or a job yet, right? And tell yourself like, oh, I haven't succeeded, I'm never gonna get there, blah blah blah. You just pause for a second and ask yourself, would my higher self say that to herself? You know? So it's also good to look up to someone, but you can also look up to yourself. You don't always need an external role model. You can just look up
mm.
to the highest version of yourself.
That
Yeah.
sounds interesting, especially when people are all unique. You probably wouldn't be able to be another, let's say Taylor Swift or someone, but you can always be another version of yourself,
Yeah.
which is the version that you would love to be.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I believe many graduates feel very unsure about their next steps, and definitely all of us experience doubts from time to time, and especially during this kind of very lost period. How do you navigate these feelings?
The feeling of like being lost and
Mm,
ooh, um, that is an interesting question. I think mainly because everyone deals with it differently. Again, it comes down to the idea that, first of all, stop comparing yourself to others. I know it's easier said than done, but it's sort of what you were saying
yeah.
about society, and also this relates to social psychology. I mean, we are programmed to fit in. You know, you as an individual, you're
Mm,
evolutionary programmed to want to not be like other people, but I guess to follow the herd because it feels safer. And
yeah.
because of that, it's very easy for you to compare yourself to other people. Like, oh, my friend has a full time job, but I don't. So that means I'm being left behind and she's leaving me. So now, because I'm being left behind, I'm unsafe. But a lot of people don't realize that when you're being left behind, or I guess when it feels like you're being left behind, that's not necessarily a bad thing because then you're being allowed more freedom to sort of create your own herd, you know, to create your own path. So when you feel lost, you're not necessarily lost. You're just in a different place from everybody else. And you have to learn how to create your own reality rather than trying to fit into everybody else's. So see it more as freedom rather than being lost. Like you're free. You know, no one's dictating you where to go. You're now free to make your own decisions and you're ready to explore whatever path you want to explore. I think that's great. I love being lost. It's so fun, you know?
Wow, that's a very interesting perspective.
Yeah. It's like, yay. It's like you're being thrown in the. I mean, I guess when you finish university, you don't get much guidance. You don't get much career guidance. You know, they give you a few
Mm,
websites and they say, look on here to find a job. But you're literally being thrown. It's like being thrown, being put in a random city with no guide, no map, no nothing. And it's scary, but it's sort of
mm,
a good scary because there are so many different roads, you know, so many different attractions that you can
mm,
explore. Um, Whereas, for example, someone who has already found a career or someone who has already landed a full time job, they don't have that opportunity at the moment to explore as much as you do. So
mm.
it's always about seeing the good side of things. That always helps.
Yeah, and I believe grass is always greener on the other side. We always just keep
Always.
looking up to someone else's life. But yeah, I remember one of my friend. She said her friend recently bought a house at the age of 25, which is wow, so good.
Mm.
But then that friend is actually um looking up to her like my friend's life because she said, yeah, now she's tied with all the commitments. She can't do anything at all, like not even traveling and stuff. But my friend can continue traveling, which is amazing.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, for example, in this situation, obviously your other friend who bought the house, she has an advantage. You know, she has her own house. She feels maybe more comforted, like she
Mm,
has somewhere. But then your other friend also has an advantage because now she has her freedom. She gets to, you know, live in different places if she could.
mm,
So it's about what you want as
yeah.
well. So that's why you should never compare yourself to someone else's
Mm,
situation because they will always have something you don't have, but then you will have something that they don't have. And
mm,
even if you do have, I mean, let's say,
yeah.
you know, if my friend was to buy a house and I was to buy a house, my experience would still be different from hers, you know? So And also, it wouldn't make me feel satisfied because it's like, oh, I'm buying a house just because all my friends are buying it. But is that making me happy?
Yeah, I was talking about this in, I think last week. No, an episode 2 weeks ago, um, where I was talking about yeah, sometimes have you ever had that experience of like, you achieve something that's so called amazing. Everyone just thinks that's the best experience that someone could have, but after you achieve it, you're like, mm, nah, I feel nothing. You don't feel as content as you thought you would, and maybe that's a sign for you to think about. Probably this is not what you want, and it doesn't align with your own values. It's just
Yeah.
what people keep telling you, and you thought that is a must thing, and at the end of the day, you just don't feel happy even though you put in so much of effort trying to achieve it.
Yeah. Yeah, that as well. Sometimes when you achieve things because people tell you to do them, or because you feel like other people will look up to you if you do it, then it won't feel as satisfying. And also, it's what you said about the grass is always greener. You know, you think that, okay, when I achieve this, I'm going to be happier. But then once you've achieved that thing, it's like, okay, I've achieved it. And now what? So you always want more. I think that's why it's important to enjoy yourself in the process rather than to always have an end goal. Because there is no end goal. I
Mm,
mean, in life, you're always learning.
yeah.
So in a way, we should have goals along the way, but not an end goal. Like I'll do this and then that's
Mm,
it. It's like no, I'll do this, but it's
mm,
just another step in the process.
yeah, and there are people out there who have always have that end goal, and they always do so much, being so disciplined to chase after that goal. But once they achieve that, then their mental health or happiness to just drop because what's next now? They don't
Yeah.
have it, and that just makes them feel so scary. And yeah, like earlier we talked about uh evolutionary. We all feel safe when we are doing something that we are comfortable with and stuff. What would you? I mean, what's your take on um going out there and step out of your comfort zone and put yourself out there and being safe? I mean, what's your take on that balance?
I think with comfort, the reason people go for comfort is because they're scared of change. And I'm saying this because it's something I'm experiencing at the moment. There is a quote I saw the other day that was saying, change is scary, but staying the same is also scary. They're both scary. It's just staying the same, it's scarier because you'll be left in one spot and then everyone else will sort of move on around you and everything around you will change. But if you're left the same and you don't try to change yourself or change your situation, then in a few years' time, that will be very difficult for you. So they're both difficult. It's
Mm,
just you have to choose your difficult. You know, do you want to feel comfortable and never grow and always stay the same, always eat the same food, always go to the same places, always have the same job? When everyone else around you will change, everyone else around you will go their different ways? Or do you want to actually live your life and explore life and feel the thrill of change, which I think is a lot more exciting? But obviously, that's really difficult for people who experience anxiety, for example. Um, because with
mm,
anxiety, so they say that depression is related to the past and anxiety is related to the future. And change is scary for
yeah.
people who experience anxiety because it's like, oh no, what if something horrible will happen? You know?
Mm,
And I think what really helps with that is
yeah.
another quote that I once heard, which there was a guy who said, he said, sorry, I'm trying to remember how it was exactly. He said, everything happens for your own good. So why do you care what happens? Like, if it happens for your own good, why do you care? what happens? So just go for it, you know? And if you feel anxious, if you feel panicked, the best thing you can do is literally just push through it. Like, it's your body, you're in control of it. If you know how to use your mind and just calm yourself down, just push through it. That's the only way you ever get.
Yeah, that's a good saying, like, because we want to be in control all the time, but sometimes that's just something that is out of your control.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I guess an interest. So, for example, to give an example of it, imagine you have social anxiety, right? Social anxiety is bad. Like, some people have it really extreme, like, some people faint, you know? Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the best you can do is if you're at that kind of extreme where you literally get so like you get such a terrible panic attack where you faint, have someone with you. You know, still do it, but just have someone next to you, because
mm,
that still offers, if you have someone
mm,
who
mm,
you feel comfortable with, that already brings your sort of comfort with you. So you don't always have to go to social events alone, or you don't
mm,
have to, you know, do certain things alone. You can have someone next to you. But I mean, to be honest, you
mm,
can read endless books and listen to endless podcasts. End of the day, the only thing that will get you through it is doing it. Feeling uncomfortable and literally
yeah,
is like just jumping in the water and swimming. That's what you have to do,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah. I remember because I'm actually very, very afraid of heights. I'll say I'm still afraid of it now, um, but nowadays I've been enjoying doing bouldering a lot, and I remember there was this one time. It's quite, I mean, it's quite early when I just started. Yeah, so I climbed all the way up, but there's no way other than jumping down. But I just can't do it that time. But what to do? I was hanging there for a few minutes until I run out of energy. I'm like, there's nowhere that I can just crawl back down. I have to
Yeah.
jump.
Oh
That was
God.
me challenging myself for the first time.
And you
Yeah,
did it, you
then,
jumped.
but so slowly after that, I yeah, there's no way for me to come back. I have to. Yeah, after a few times of jumping down, it is still scary, but nowadays it's just something that I can do it if I need to. Yeah, and I think last year during summer there's this not exactly like fun fair, but something small in the city center, and so I saw this thing. I can't remember what it's called. So it looks like a swing, then it slowly goes up, and then
Mm.
do you know that
I
people do
think,
it in yeah. So but that yeah, that wasn't very tall, and I was like, I have to do this now because there's just other taller one that I probably wouldn't be able to do it at all. Yeah, so I was like, I have to do it now. So I asked my partner to do it with me, and although throughout the whole thing I was closing my eyes, but it was still scary. I remember queuing up, and there's a sign like, it's your own responsibility if you're afraid of heights or something like this. Then I was like, nah, that's me, but I have to do it.
yeah.
It's now or
No,
never.
yeah. I mean, congrats to you. Honestly, being scared of heights is scary. Um, but it's once you realize it's all in your head, then things become easier because it's all in your
Mm,
head. Social anxiety, it's still in your head. You know, like even if you're crowded by people, this is going to sound harsh, but no one cares about you. Like, and you know, the fact that no one cares about you, people think it's a bad thing. It's actually a really good thing. Like, oh my God, no one cares about me. How great is that? You know?
yeah,
Because everyone has their own lives. Everyone is stressed about themselves. Like, you really think you're the only person out there who's stressed
mm,
about how they look or how stressed about how they act. I'm thinking about me. You're thinking about you. No one is thinking like, you know? So, I mean, it's obviously easier said than done.
yeah,
I'm talking, but I do experience social anxiety sometimes as well. and I am naturally an overthinker. But again, these are just thoughts. So
Mm.
once you learn how to manage your thinking, then it becomes easier to manage your thoughts, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and the gradual exposure plays a very huge role here. Of course, you can't expect yourself to go and if you have social anxiety, you can't expect yourself to go into, let's say, a party or what and socialize there. You can do step by step from
Yeah,
something small and slowly build up to it. Take take it gradually. Yeah.
yeah. No, that as well. Like, if you have severe social anxiety, even going to a park where there's like five people there, that's a start,
Mm.
you know? And then once you
Yeah.
realize, okay, there's no harm,
Yeah.
then you can start to work your way up. And again, you can do it with an individual. Like, you don't have to do it by yourself at the beginning. It's okay to take someone with you. So,
Mm.
yeah, it's just about, it's like, there was another
Yeah.
quote. Sorry, I keep bringing up quotes. It's because some of them are really helpful, but that says that
Oh.
1% growth is still growth.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of the time, actually, people around you are willing to help you. People want to do it, so reach out to people if you need to.
Yeah, definitely.
They are more than willing to do it.
Definitely, yeah. Especially close friends and family.
Like how you would support someone, they would do the same to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so looking back at your time studying psychology, what's the one thing that you wish you had known earlier? Probably in terms of career planning.
Honestly, I wish I would have taken more advantage of doing volunteer work and placements. Because so we did have the opportunity to do a sandwich year where for the first 2 years you study, and then the third year you do a placement year, and then you go back into your fourth year to study. And I really think, in a way, I do wish I took that opportunity just because it would have given me more experience. Um, and also because
Mm,
during university, I had a part time job compared to now, where I have a full time job. And I would have had more time to do more volunteer work. And I really wish I
mm.
would have had the initiative to do that at the time.
Yeah, I think it's quite similar for me too. If I could go back and change one thing, I'll probably make good use of summer breaks to do more in probably trying out different field. Like I so far I'll say I only had that one marketing internship plus I mean after I graduated everything is about mental health, but haven't really tried out HR, which I
Hmm.
think it's an interesting area for me too. I took a module in my third year from the business school, and that was very interesting. If I could go back and change one thing, I probably try to get myself into at least experiencing it,
Yeah.
even if it's an unpaid job or whatsoever.
Yeah.
And
No.
maybe a bit about research. I used to think I hate research, but actually after I really do it, it's actually more interesting than I thought it would be. It's just that assumption that it's going to be boring. You're just looking at papers, you're reading, but there's a lot of stuff involved in the whole research process. There's a lot of planning, there's a lot of communicating, and you just need to work through them most of the time by yourself because that's your project.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's, I mean, I think if you're just starting university, honestly, live the uni life. Like, take as many opportunities as you can, do as
Mm,
much volunteer work as you can, join societies, socialize,
mm,
network. I think those are so important. And if I was to do university all over again, I would have done that. I would have been more out there. You know, instead of spending 3 days at home per week doing nothing. I would rather go back and
mm,
join communities, join social groups. I think those are so important because networking
mm.
is crucial, you know?
Yeah, and I actually had a very good time in university. Like I joined a society called Youth Entrepreneur Society, and I was holding some leadership position as well. So I was very busy that time. But if I had the chance again, I'll push myself a bit more to go out for networking instead of just limiting myself in the university environment. It is still a
Yeah.
very good experience. It built me a lot of skills, a lot of communication part, um, and makes me who I am today. But if I had the chance again, I should go more. I mean, go out of the university environment. There's a lot of different stuff out there that might even spice up the whole experience.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. So it's just about, take every opportunity, take advantage of everything that comes your way. So
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else that you would like to add on for today?
no, really, just, go for it. Honestly, like the best way to heal
Go
mentally,
for
the
it. Go
best
for it.
way to achieve anything you want to do is literally go for it. Like there's no such thing as failure.
Mm,
Failure is when you haven't tried. I think if I was to define failure is not trying, you know. So when you see it that way, then it becomes scarier. It's like I haven't tried, that's when I fail. So that should push you to want to try and just
mm,
jump into the unknown. So
yeah. I like that mindset.
yeah,
All right, and thank you so much for joining me today. And thank
thank
you
you.
everyone for listening. If you enjoyed it, feel free to share it with your friends or family who you think might benefit from it. And feel free to leave us some comments or continue our discussion down in the comment section. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.